6:36, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. As far as your weather for today, sunny and the high of around 68. Is that 68? All right, 68 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matthew Hurtt is joining us on the Newsmaker Hotline. Matthew, always great to have you on. So much to talk about on this Monday morning. One of the things, well, let's just start with the topic that everybody's talking about. Of course, over the weekend, there was a lot of these Tesla protests. Overall, they say there's been about 80 total Teslas destroyed. But I don't think that was from over the weekend. I think that's from the start of all of this insanity. But the bottom line is, what's your takeaway from what happened or what you saw this weekend?
Well, Dan, there is a Tesla dealership just down the road from where I'm sitting now, and it made the news over the weekend. A Tesla was vandalized in Arlington. This brings us one step closer from protest to property destruction to the dehumanization. I've now seen a dozen or so bumper stickers on Teslas, clearly from leftists or progressives. That read something like, "I bought this Tesla before Elon went crazy." This is the new thing among leftists, activists, and protesters. They've gotten the memo. Unfortunately, for many of them, particularly in D.C., they already drive a Tesla, and so we're going to see what I think is some collateral damage. But this is concerning because it is, somebody's car, somebody's home is their private property. And the left, through CNN and other outlets, are basically giving permission to destroy, to vandalize, to burn these private individuals' property, and it's a shame.
Do you think, Matthew, that the rank-and-file Democrats, the ones that are not activists, they go out, they work every day, they're trying to make a living, they're trying to, pay off their mortgage, make the rent, all that stuff, do you think that they agree with all of this insanity of destroying Teslas?
Well, I have very little insight into that, Dan, because I live inside the Beltway, and anyone who is a Democrat or a progressive or a leftist eats, drinks, and sleeps this stuff. I suspect, though, the people in your market in the Nashville area, if they're Democrats, they may comment on a Facebook post or say something on social media. I don't think for most rank-and-file Democrats outside the Beltway, this would turn into activism or vandalism against somebody's vehicle.
My problem is the Democrats that listen to me, they're very hate-filled, at least the ones that communicate with us. But all right, so I'll play along. Super text line is open, 615-737-9986. If you're a Democrat, or maybe you're a moderate, maybe you're an independent, whatever. But if you're on the either center or the left-hand side of things, then do you stand by what the Democrats are doing, what the Democrat Party is encouraging, and what we're actually seeing as far as Elon Musk goes and these Teslas? So if you're a hate listener, whatever, I want to know your opinion. Matthew, let me ask you, as far as there was a poll over the weekend, and I know you saw it. If not, I'm shocked that you didn't. But there was a poll, and Democrats were actually asked, who do you want the front runner to be in 2028? Kamala Harris was up top by, I think, 38%. Pete Buttigieg was way far behind. He was down in the single digits. Are you surprised?
This is very interesting. Most people who would be polled are quote-unquote average Americans. And the problem that we see here is what's called recency bias. So if you ask anyone on the street, name the last couple of presidents or name somebody in Congress, they're going to name somebody that they've heard in the news recently. And so since Kamala Harris was the standard bearer for the Democrats in the last election, it is no surprise that she got such a high percentage. We are cycles and cycles, essentially a generation of news cycles away from the next presidential election, and I am certain those names will change and move and fluctuate over the next 3 or 4 years.
Do you think Pete Buttigieg is overall, just what we've seen of both, do you think Pete Buttigieg is a better candidate overall than Kamala Harris?
He might be, but he moved from Indiana to Michigan. It's very likely he's in that Senate race, or he's going to run for Senate in Michigan. So it's a man without a state, and really the Democratic Party is going to look inward, and hopefully one of the things they produce is merit-based promotion or support. However, I don't think that Pete Buttigieg and other people who look like him will make the top of the ticket in 2028 or for the foreseeable future.
All right. So one more question on the Tesla thing, then I'm going to move on. But a lot of people are saying, well, these protesters, they're paid for by George Soros. They're paid for protesters, rent a protester, all that kind of stuff. Do you believe that these are paid protesters? Do you believe that maybe the ranks are being filled out by paid protesters? What do you think?
So the activists who've showed up at the Tesla dealership in Arlington are representative of an organization. I'm not sure where that money comes from, but what happens when you organize a protest is you do get onlookers and other interested parties who show up and be part of the action. As somebody who's done this on the right for 15 years, started in the Tea Party days, nobody cut me a check to show up to the Legislative Plaza in Nashville to protest during the Tea Party days. But a lot of these individual actors who are keying the sides of Teslas or vandalizing in some other way, I think those individuals are getting caught up in the hysteria, and many of them will be, I think, individual actors. This is happening in Walmart parking lots and other public areas where somebody just happened to be on the way to their car. They see a Tesla, they are frustrated and enraged, and then they drag their key along the side of the car. However, again, the protests are being supported by organizations that do tend to raise money from left-wing interests like George Soros. That's what I'm seeing just down the road in Arlington.
We're laughing about this earlier. Matthew Hurtt is joining us about an hour and 15 minutes ago. We're laughing about the fact that within the Democrat ranks, a very well-known Democrat is actually proving herself to be an election denier. Rosie O'Donnell, of course, you know that she has moved to Ireland. This is what she said on a local Irish television show. Listen.
I question why the first time in American history a president has won every swing state and is also best friends, and his largest donor was a man who owns and runs the internet. So I would hope that would be investigated and that we would see whether or not it was an anomaly or something else that happened on election night in America when Kamala Harris was filling up stadiums with people who supported her, and Donald Trump was not able to do that. So it's curious to me. And as an American and a believer in democracy, I would hope that we would be able to look at all of the reasons why this happened in our country.
All right, so Rosie O'Donnell, and I mean, it sounds like she's an election denier. She also sounds like she's completely clueless as to what happened in 2024.
Well, Rosie O'Donnell is not in a league of her own in this instance. She joins the ranks of election deniers like Hillary Clinton and many other Democrats who just can't fathom that someone outside of New York City or Washington, D.C. would vote for Donald Trump. This reminds me of the Kamala Harris rally on the Eclipse outside the White House just days before the election when 70,000 people came from a city where 94% of people voted for Kamala. So this is inside the bubble in Lower Manhattan, in New York, in San Francisco. Those kinds of individuals have not gotten out into flyover states or real America, as we call it, and they're completely out of touch with the average American voter.
All right, so real quick, and this is my favorite story of the day, where you know as well as I do who Jamaal Bowman is. And he said this about, we got to check traffic real quick. Going to check traffic, and then we're going to go to this Jamaal Bowman cut. He said the wrong thing at the wrong time about the wrong person, and now the right thing is going to happen, and we're going to talk about that straight ahead. Time to check the roads on WTN.
At VNA 40 westbound at Donaldson Pike, we've an accident blocking the right shoulder. Shelbyville 24 westbound at Church Street reports an accident. No problems on 840 or 65. No unusual delays on 440. I'm Christy O'Brien.
646 weather for today, a high of 68 and sunny. Right now, 50 degrees at Super Talk, 99.7 WTN. So Jamaal Bowman, of course, he is a disgraced Democrat who lost his lofty position inside the squad. Well, he has now been hired as a commentator for CNN, and this is what he said about Elon Musk.
That's not true, and this shows, again, the American people do not trust Elon Musk, and Elon Musk is incompetent in his position. And how do we know? Because they fired tens of thousands of people, was challenged in court. The court said the people have to go back, and now the people are coming back. He's incompetent, he's a thief, he's a Nazi, and people don't trust him. Period. Let me just, that's not true.
All right, so you could tell everybody on the panel over there at CNN is like, oh, crap. But here's the thing, and now Elon Musk has come out and said, enough is enough. Lawsuit is forthcoming. So I don't know if he's going to sue Jamaal Bowman, if he's going to sue CNN. I think he ought to sue CNN. I don't know what the laws are, but if they hire a guy who is such an incredible flamethrower, Matthew Hurtt, then they know what he's going to say, the kind of things he's going to say, and they deserve to get sued along with Jamaal Bowman.
Yeah, this is absolutely outrageous. Our heightened political discourse, particularly coming from the left about Republicans who've been called Nazis forever, and having, CNN is responsible for the content that is on the air. And if even a strongly worded letter from an attorney, you don't actually have to sue. Oftentimes these matters are resolved by a strongly worded letter suggesting that CNN take action, and what is that action going to be? It will be elimination from the program and from the contract. I'm certain there's a clause in the contract that says CNN can walk away from this in the event Jamaal Bowman does something that would embarrass the station. This is certainly an embarrassing situation, and it could cost them, hundreds of thousands of dollars, either in advertising dollars or even more money in lawsuits or even the threats of lawsuits.
All right. Speaking of lawsuits, real quickly, we know that these judges, it doesn't even matter the executive order. It feels like almost every single executive order has been blocked by one of these Democrat judges. The Democrats basically said we filled the ranks of, judgeships with a bunch of judges that are on they're on a Rolodex, and we can call them and they'll block everything that Donald Trump wants to do from an executive order standpoint. You think this is going to backfire on the Democrats? Because I don't think the people of America are appreciating this lawfare.
The left is perfected this. It's called district shopping. It's where they identify a court or a district that would provide a favorable judgment, in many of these instances blocking Donald Trump's executive orders. I think this is going to come to a head. Many of these will make their way all the way to the Supreme Court. We've already seen John Roberts is sympathetic to the left in these instances. This is certainly going to erode the trust of the courts because a majority of Americans, and you said it in the last segment, are supportive of Donald Trump and his policies, and it's going to raise some serious questions. I think there are legislative fixes, and what that means is Congress, controlled by Republicans in both houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives, are going to have to enact many of these, and you and I have talked about this for several weeks. Even the DOGE cuts have to actually come through Congress as spending proposals. And it appears to me that Senate Republicans, about a half of them, are unwilling to make those cuts, the cuts that the American people support.
All right, last one real quick. What is your prediction? AOC, is she going to try to primary Chuck Schumer?
Whoa, Dan, I'm not prepared to talk about that inside the Beltway stuff. It is still a long way out. We're still a long way out from I think what you said, 2028.
Yeah.
The American people's political memory is short. However, I think that this sustained frustration among Democrats with no leadership, you talk about the poll with Kamala Harris, there is no leader of the Democratic Party, and Chuck Schumer certainly hasn't taken on that mantle of, say, a Mitch McConnell for the Republicans, whatever the listeners think about Mitch McConnell, he was pretty good at stopping bad judges through the Obama administration and into the Biden years. But Chuck Schumer is no Mitch McConnell, and he certainly will attract opposition from the left, whether that manifests as a Senate candidate, one Senate candidate who could take him out in a primary. That remains to be seen.
All right, Matthew, how can people find you on Twitter?
I'm on Twitter at Matthew Hurtt, MattheWHurtt.
All right, thank you very much. Talk to you again soon. 6:51, running a little late, but worth it. Joan Jones, though, waits for no one. Hey, Joan.
I absolutely do not.
What is coming up in the news at 7?
Tennessee State Legislature is tackling a bill. It's a controversial one regarding schools this week. Also, Venezuela wants their gangbangers back. Those
you know
stories.
Why that is, right?
What's that?
You know why that is, right?
That they want the gangbangers back?
Yeah, you know why that is, right?
No, tell me.
I'll tell you after the news at 7.
Sounds good.
All right.
Coming up here at 7 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Why does